Exploring Healthier Masculinity Within Business, a monthly call for executive and senior leaders within industry who too rarely have a space to stop, to breathe, to take off the weight of being a leader of teams and organizations. Taking place on the first Monday of every month. Email gary.turner@radicality.co.uk. Hello there. Welcome to the next episode of In the Business of Healthy Masculinity. I'm hoping you might hear a slight difference in quality in terms of the sound because Gary Turner, the host, now has a new snazzy microphone, headphone, and hopefully a bit more kit that allows you to have a better experience as you watch or listen back. But enough about that for today, because what I'd love to introduce you to is my latest guest. And that latest guest is the wonderful, and I'd say this not lightly, the wonderful John Engle. John, welcome to the platform, and thanks so much for joining me today.
Gary, thank you. It's great to see you, and thanks for the invitation.
Well, look, as we get going today, we've had a chat about the topic on the back channel, but I'd love for people who are watching us or maybe even listening to us on Apple or Spotify to learn a bit more about John. You know, just give us a couple of minute lowdown. I know there's a lot that makes up John Engle, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the listeners, please.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. There's this question that has stayed with me for 45 years and has shaped my life, and that is, how do we live and ultimately die well? Mm-hmm. And that's taken a number of different turns, and it included, I was born and raised in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and then I worked in the for-profit world for 6 or 7 years, and then I moved to Haiti, and that's life in Haiti, and supporting education has been a big part of my life. So I'm co-director along with my wife, who's originally from Haiti, Marilyn, of Haiti Partners, the organization, and I'm currently working on a book. Our moment is now. Excuse me. But yeah, that's a bit about me. Excuse me.
Not at all. It's what I love about this platform as well. It's real, right? We have coughs, we make noises. This is how it goes. So no, thanks for that introduction. And I love that. I love that curiosity that you've held for so much of your life, John, around how do we die well? How do we, isn't that such a taboo topic for all of us, but particularly men, I think, in Western society, to even think that you might die one day? That's a really taboo topic.
Right. And the Stoics would advise us that it's healthy to think about daily.
That's amazing. How have you sort of, as we get going today, I'm really curious how that emerged for you, even as a sort of inquiry.
You know, I remember back when I was 18, and I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I graduated from high school. And I was pursuing different things and thinking about life. And, I'd gone through some difficult times in my teenage years, like so many people do. But I remember hearing somebody who was speaking to a large audience, and he recently passed away, but over the years he became a good friend, Tony Campolo, and he's also known in circles in the UK. But he told this story about people on their deathbed and what they were citing as things that they regret, things that they would do differently. And there were three things, and those three things just kind of stayed with me. That, the worst thing imaginable is to be on your deathbed and to be looking back and say, man, I wish I would have. It's like with this life, we got one shot. Let's think at the end. Let's have the end in mind, as Stephen Covey talks about. And so that's really shaped me. And then over the years, reading the Stoics and Marcus Aurelius and different people who have written about death, and I just resonate with that idea, and having some near-death experiences myself, as you have.
So I'm so intrigued. So again, thank you for bringing that up. I'm literally, for those that are listening on the podcast, I'm turning to my right to show a book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware, who is a UK-based palliative care nurse. So I'm just so intrigued. And for those that may not have heard of this before, this, like the 5 regrets, I wish I'd had the courage to live true to myself. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. That's a big one for this platform.
Right.
Interestingly.
Yes.
I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends, and I wish I'd let myself be happier.
Yes.
And it's really interesting that what you shared from Tony very much aligns with what Bronnie has seen in the context of palliative care. And I wonder your experience of life, John, and your own journey. To what extent can embracing the conversation about death open up more life?
Right, exactly. I think it helps us zero in on what matters. Right? What matters? And I think lots of us wrestle with the question, especially early on, like, what is it all about? And I think it's a healthy thing to do. And then if you start to say, okay, well, in terms of there's something mysterious about life, and I have this life, and I might be a speck on the planet, which is a speck in the universe, but somehow there's some relevance to it. And what is it that matters? And so I think that helps us zero in. And for me, one of the big things was early on, I was impacted by when I was a child, the Vietnam War had come to a close. And outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania, there was an old military barracks where thousands of refugees from Vietnam came. And that was a time when the US government actually invited people to take in refugees. It was a different era. And so my parents were young. They were young parents of 5 kids, about 30 years old. But we took in a brother and a sister that were 23 and 20, and they lived with us. And, hearing their stories about poverty, about war, about violence, that was one of many things that opened my eyes that in Hershey, Pennsylvania, I was growing up in a bubble, and it's not the way most people in the world live. And, is somehow I felt called to get involved in the disparity, and somehow doing my part between life in rich countries, financially speaking, and developing countries. And that took me to Haiti.
It's really powerful, John. I met you through, the wonderful work of Tracy Fenton and World Blue. That's how we came to each other's orbits. But I'm really enjoying this intersection now between me working still within the corporate world, right, in the West, but with a real personal passion for equality, justice, inclusion, co-creation, better, healthier, right?
Right.
And that's very much what I felt you speaking to but from a very different context. And I'm wondering, and feel free to challenge or build on that, John, but I'm really curious to what extent, we look at what's happening right now. We don't need to go into details about any particular area, but it's very clear there is a breakdown occurring en masse.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, when you think about masculinity, when we think about how we as men have been told we have to be in the world for many, many generations now, in your perspective, do you think there's an opportunity for us to reimagine and reshift how we operate, what we believe in, how we allow ourselves to feel as men, or do you feel otherwise? I'm just really curious what your sort of sense is in this moment.
The role of women in my work and in leadership in the work that I've been involved with in Haiti has been absolutely essential in terms of having a positive impact. So for me, the feminine, there are so many qualities that are more aligned with feminine than that are so essential for us. And so over the years, I've been a bit of a study on this because I was steeped in the culture of Haiti, which is steeped in colonialism and the legacy of slavery, right? So that's, and watching that, and we learn about our own culture when we go and live in another culture. You have a distance from your own culture. So it not only helped me to as a foreigner, to see things in in Haitian culture, which is very, very patriarchal and not surprising. You know, it's, again, it was so steeped in colonialism and the legacy of slavery. So just literally top down. And so that pulled me to get involved in things like World Blue and the 10 principles, you know, like you mentioned, Tracy, and to get into like the work of Riane Eisler. Riane Eisler, she's still alive. And, you know, to me, it's an example. If she would be male, her name would probably be much better known, but she's still alive in her 90s. But her first book, The Chalice and the Blade, was published in 1987. And that book, you know, again, the chalice carries water, carries liquid, but also carries meaning. You know, the chalice and the blade. So the feminine and the masculine. So she would argue, as a historian, she would argue that there were plenty of societies where women were, and the feminine was considered like a superpower. But those societies, those are not the societies that we chose to write about. And those societies that were based on, she would call partnership paradigm or partnerism, those societies were not the ones that we chose to write about, that we chose to recite the stories of. It was rather the stories of the societies that were dominance based. So I'm of the opinion, and she would say that the domination, the tendency to want to dominate, which is much more masculine, that will ultimately ruin us. It will lead to our destruction. And that until we adapt, you know, environmental, in terms of human rights, in terms of dignity, and until we gravitate towards more of a partnerism mentality and a partnerism approach to life, and it starts with the genders, and then works its way out into organizations, into societies, we will self-destruct. And so that's, you know, that's part of, for me, my opinion, like our moment is now. The stakes are higher than ever for humanity, with nuclear, with climate change, there's just so many different things, with AI and the ability to concentrate power. Like, this is when we have to change.
I'm literally buzzing, John, as I hear you, because you deliver, if I may say, you deliver practical, honest, heartfelt perspective without judgment. And that's not easily done. That's not easily done, particularly in this moment of polarization and power structures trying to pull us away from one another. So I just want to acknowledge and thank you for that really rich, sort of non-judgmental perspective. And I think that's been part of my own learning journey, if I'm honest, because one of the beauties of this particular platform has been, one of the things I'm so clear on, and you just spoke to this in one way, is it's about conscious dialing up and dialing down of the masculine and feminine that we all have within us. Right. So, you know, so it's okay, right? It's okay to want to build something very masculine. It's okay to want to drive towards a goal. There's nothing wrong with that masculine energy when it's combined with a desire to care, to listen, to co-create and do together, as you said, partnerism. Right. What I'm observing myself within business spaces is actually a very intriguing. It's almost like, because of the lack of embodiment within particularly senior C-suite spaces in the main that I operate within. So I'm talking extractive industries, chemicals, oil, big gas, you know, the big old traditional industries. I'm actually seeing a doubling down of the fear-based response, because we're in such volatile times.
Yes.
So for those, in particular men, but all genders, all perspectives, but particularly men that I'm observing, they're doubling down with fear and control, instead of taking the opportunity that you're offering to go, hey, I'm feeling something in my body that's uncomfortable. Why is that?
Yeah, exactly. And you say, why specifically? Why is that? Why are we doubling down?
Or actually, I was sort of rhetorically thinking of that C-suite leader who's feeling something maybe for the first time, or they're always pushing away. Maybe,
Right.
it's like, no, I don't want to feel that. That's uncomfortable. So I'm going to control, or I'm going to dominate, or I'm going to tell someone what to do. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering what opportunity exists from a curiosity point of view. If we, in
Hmm.
particular men, but all of us, allowed ourselves to feel, as we said earlier, with Bronnie Ware's,
Right.
end of life. I wish I allowed
Exactly.
myself to feel more.
Right. Right. You would hope that the circumstances would point in that direction, that what we've been doing isn't working. It comes up short. um, it's headed in a negative direction. And we see this in the fragmentation around the world, right? In pockets
Mm-hmm.
around the world, and in some cases, vast fragmentation. And so you would hope that these types of moments cause us to reflect. And again, I just think of some of these people who have, another person that I'm a big fan of, as so many other people are, and like in our generation, like Peter Drucker. I mean, what a profound thinker. Who was Peter Drucker's guru? Who was the person that he would often refer to as like ahead of her time? Mary Parker Follett. In the business world before the Depression, going around to talk about and speak about the role of leadership and the role of bringing people together and creating space for working with, not working over. The feminine has these feminine qualities have such insight for how we move forward together. So to me, these issues are just no brainers. The other thing is, like, we hear from. In fact, I was pulling out some of these books. In fact, some of the people like Dr. King, who recently interviewed you, and Josh Allen Dijkstra, and some of the things that they're talking about, like we need a new story. And the stories are there of civilizations that did balance this and had a more, where the feminine was stronger in the culture, and more working with and working together and working in solidarity, empathy, so many qualities that are so essential for a positive human experience, and to bring out the best in people come from the feminine. But even, we have, from good to great, Jim Collins, a best-selling, one of the best-selling. And what does Jim Collins say? I mean, Jim Collins wrote a publication after this one, which I have read, of the leader in the public sector. And he shows us that when money and power are taken off the table, leadership has to be rooted in humility, stewardship, and purpose. And that's the power. That's the power of healthy masculinity, where it creates space for this. And so, to me, it is just essential that leaders are using their platform, using their power and their authority to create and hold space. One of your recent guests talked about how, inviting conversations, inviting dialogue and listening, one of World Blue's 10 principles. I mean, World Blue has profound principles for helping us to be better humans. And if we're better humans, then we have more healthy masculinity. So things like accountability, transparency, and dignity. And so listening, dialogue and listening, reflection and evaluation. So a great experience for me in Haiti that I often share as something powerful, where leaders make the right decision to lean in to their power and their authority with an invitation and through opening space, there's this school, and it's a well-known school in Haiti. It's a private school that brings the cream of the crop, students from slums around the country, just very, very poor, financially poor neighborhoods, bring students together to go to a boarding school, a high school. And it's a very progressive education. So they're teaching people about dignity and about character and these different qualities in a very hierarchical society, a very paternalistic society. So it's natural that the women, the young women, the students in high school are feeling empowered to, have their voice. And this doesn't go well with the boy students. And so they were literally having fights and just lots of conflict between the boys and the girls. And so the leadership team, who had experience with me facilitating open space, and you're probably familiar with open space technology,
Yes,
meeting method. Yes.
absolutely.
So they said we have two options. We could either establish more rules and more punishment for how we approach this, or we can invite the girl and boy students into dialogue about what do we do here. So, I did what we always do with open space. You first create a microcosm of the people who you want to invite into the larger conversation. So a handful of students, some teachers, females and males, and you talk about how do we frame the theme? How do we articulate with the objectives of this kind of strange meeting that we're going to invite people into? And they came up with, how do we create a symbiotic relationship between girls and boys? And they engaged wholeheartedly. They proposed topics. They self-organized into small group discussions over an afternoon. And, the results were what you can imagine they were when people come together and they feel it's a safe space. They can speak with one another. They can listen. There's an air of respect. So it's, to me, holding space, the concept of holding space, which we know, those of us who are involved in coaching, holding space where people feel comfortable to share. And again, this is more feminine, a more feminine quality. To me, it's holding space with one-on-one and with groups, and opening space is key to us figuring out how to learn what healthy masculinity looks like in organizations, in workspaces.
Thank you for sharing that practical example. It's such a powerful story. I just love that, John. I just love that we agree as boys and girls going through this experience that we want to be symbiotic together. That was their co-created objective, right?
Right.
And that to me, certainly my journey the last decade, it's almost like saying, I want to get back to who we are, our essence, without the colonization, without the extraction, without the domination, right? Regardless of whether they were boys or girls, they intuitively knew they wanted to get back to before that conditioning.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. As so many people have talked, your past guests, we are creatures of habit. We're shaped by the culture we're in. So much, like sometimes people will talk about, well, are we motivated by fear? Or are we motivated by... I think in a lot of cases, we're shaped by our culture and by the systems in us. It's in the air we breathe, in the water we drink. And so the only way to get out of that is to step away and rethink. And we do that by things like what you're doing here with podcasts and conversations. And let's face it, our conversations with people, and really listening to people and what they have to say, and feeling what they feel, and empathy, those are the things that can influence who we become and how we change.
Beautiful, John. I'm curious. So I'm going to pretend. I'd love you to role play with me for a moment, and for the listeners and watchers. So we've got senior leaders listening. I know there will be some, maybe not lots, but there'll definitely be some. And they will probably be terrified. What do you mean I've got to listen? What do you mean holding space? What does that even mean? Does that make me more money? Does that mean I get more out of my people? What are you sort of thinking and feeling as you hear from this CEO that's feeling stressed, pressured, got to hit the next 3 months' numbers? How do you invite that person to hold space, to allow themselves to be in such a space? Wonder what your thoughts or reflections are.
I think a word comes to mind: courage. Let's face it, it's going to take courage. It's going to take courage. And the other word that comes to mind is it's risky. It is risky. And, whether we, in terms of the things about ultimately to die well, at the end of our lives, we don't want to look back and regret that we didn't take more risks for who we felt called to be and what we believed in. And that's one of the, I forget her name, the author of the book that you referred to, which I'm familiar with her work, but also one of the things that I heard when I was 18 years old, it was a very similar. They categorized the the regrets of 100 people over 95 years old. And one was it would have just been more conscious about the relationships, the things that they valued in life. Another was they would have taken more risks to do what they believed in, to stand up for what they believe in. So I think that's the message for people. It's just a matter of time, and you're going to be on your deathbed. And whether it's the deathbed or you're going to be gone, what did you do about it? What did you do about these convictions?
What a powerful invitation. And I also take the challenge, right? I love these conversations, John, because it reminds us of where we may be, or speaking the I for, where I may not be speaking up or challenging or having that uncomfortable conversation that I want to be having. And I appreciate you for naming clearly the reality, again, with love, right? Like some people think I'm a little bit bonkers at times, which I am, John.
We love you, Gary.
but I look around the world at the people that are hurting the most other people, right? The people that are really causing mass harm around the world, and I see scared, fragile human beings. I don't see leaders. Right. I don't see role models. I don't see inspiration. I see fear.
Right.
I see small boys, aged 3 years old, in fear.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that we have to change. And, we just celebrated Martin Luther King, last Monday. So, his sayings, his spirit is still, are very fresh, because a lot of reflection and meditation around them in the last week. But in spite of the horrific things that he was going through, what did he preach? He exuded love. He exuded, and he was willing to die for it, and courage, and vision, and the dream. That's what we have to draw inspiration from.
And this gets me excited. So I've been challenged by my guest, Hannah, my friend Hannah Litt, from episode number 11. So actually, a bit of a spoiler alert. So Hannah's going to be sponsoring this podcast going forward, which is very exciting.
Oh,
which is fantastic. And why I wanted to mention Hannah, not just because of that reason, but she has been really educating me, John. So I've done some work with Hannah myself the last 12 months in finding the joy despite the collapse, despite what looks to be uncontrollably painful.
Yes.
How do we navigate that and bring our truth? How do we ask the difficult question? How do we find one another and come from that place of love, joy, co-creation? Again, accelerating and building those feminine energies alongside healthy, conscious masculine energies. And this is something that she models brilliantly, and you, for me today, are modeling brilliantly as well, John. So thank you for that.
I've enjoyed learning about Hannah and her journey and the way that she shares her gifts. They get manifested in society and in the organization she worked. Yeah, very inspiring. But joy as resilience.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I can't believe we're up to nearly half an hour already. So I'd love to leave you with the last word today, John. What would you like to invite our listeners, our watchers? What's a final reflection or a final invitation from you today?
Yeah, to me, humility like if we're talking about it's key to open space, it's key to hold space, humility. And I have different books. Humility is the new smart. This is excellent. The extraordinary power of leader humility. To me, humility is key.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. Everyone, so John Engle, John Engle, one word.com. Do please reach out with John. You can find him on LinkedIn as well. Follow Haiti Partners, the amazing work he's doing with his wife and partner Merlene in Haiti. And John, I just want to appreciate you. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Gary.
for how you show up and for joining me today.
I'm among the many who love you, Gary.
It's very kind of you. And have a wonderful day, John. And everybody, thanks for joining us. Till next time.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks very much.